What is up, Nico Nation? Welcome back to the channel, Division Draftables, our draft series that highlights your favorite team and all 32 NFL teams as we get closer to training camp and preseason and out of the NFL draft cycle. I'm your host, Niko Chambers, Nico the Draft Guy, you can call me, as always, with my co-host, P. Dunn. We're going to take you through it all today for the NFC South. Um, so yeah, let's just get this thing rolling. Carolina Panthers. Talk to me about their draft be done.
Dude, start off with a banger. This is a fantastic draft. A fantastic draft. They checked so many boxes and got so many players that both of us really, really like. I mean, when if you showed this to a Panthers fan or anybody in the Panthers general, like in the front office before the draft, they would have been ecstatic that it turned out this way. This is absolutely fantastic. Um, solid A that could have been an A plus if we're being honest. Very, very excited for this team.
They went all out. You can just every single pick. At first, a little skeptical of the Tet pick, knowing they needed defense, but immediately when they got scored in the second, I mean, that erases everything. That becomes a phenomenal pick. Getting Princely in the third, this is a steal as well. And I mean, you just go down, you get Ransom, you get ETN, even Mitchell Evans and Jimmy Horn. Like, come on, like this Panthers team deserving of an A. It's a top three draft in all of the NFL. Um, Definitely something to be excited for as we look at the depth chart for them. Talk to me, Pete, on what do you see? What stands out to you?
I mean, it's a roster that's better than I think when you think of the Panthers, I think this roster is better than the idea that pops into most people's heads. I mean, this is a roster that I think wouldn't it would shock a lot of people. I don't think it'd shock us if they played really well this season, with a Bryce Young that's developed and more confident. With now you get him a real weapon with Tet. You've got a solidified offensive line, and yes, there's a lot of holes in the defense, but those are hopefully going to be holes that get patched for the next few years. Like this is, if you're a Panthers fan, man, there's a lot to be excited for here.
I think that it's really cool to see kind of it's going to be all dependent on this third year jump from Bryce Young, what he can do with the team. The offense really doesn't change much. So that could be the main question mark. But the defense, it was atrocious last year. But kind of going into the free agency, getting Moerig, I'm just going down the list here, like Bobby Brown as a nose tackle. I think you're going to line up Scorton at the defensive end position rather than where they got him here at outside linebacker. I think that's more Princely's job, but like just it's super exciting. I think this is the build up to what can be. Because ultimately, it is year three of 5 year deal, like guessing that they're gonna pick up the option for Bryce Young. Um, so I don't know how big his contract is gonna be. So this could be like a small little window opening for them. But I think they definitely nailed it from that sense. Tell me about your picks.
Well, favorite pick has to be Scorton. I mean that was our boy
Yeah.
throughout the whole process. He's going to be fantastic. I agree with you. He's going to be a defensive end for them. Outside of my best value pick, which is Princely Umamielen, who is going to be an outside linebacker for them. Those two screaming off the edge is going to be awesome and really fun to watch. Lathan Ransom, I think, is going to have a really long career whether it's with the Panthers or not. I think he's going to be in the league for a really long time. He's a good, solid, high floor player, and that's what this defense needs on that back end right now. Sleeper Jimmy Horn, a guy that kind of got a lot of buzz late in the draft cycle. A guy that we heard a lot about, and ended up here in a spot where he's going to be pushing for playing time. And then year one impact, T-Mac, I was not high on T-Mac throughout this process, and this is a absolutely awesome spot for him and being Bryce Young's safety net. So very excited for that.
And finding out that he's was working out with Bryce Young throughout the process kind of made this seem like this was their plan all along. I got the same thought process as you, P. Dunn. I got favorite pick, obviously scored, and I love that man. I mean, he was my defensive end one. He's the guy. I rated him higher than Shamar Stewart for a reason. Them being teammates at Texas A&M. I just love what he does for them. He's going to be great for this Panthers team, still in the second round. So that's why he's my best value pick as well. Draft Diamond, same thing. Lathan Ransom. He's just going to fall into this Panthers defense that needs that kind of secondary help very nicely. Princely, my top sleeper. You know, you talk about the first two picks for this Panthers team. You're not really talking as much about the third, but you should be, because you're going to see exactly why Princey was taken here and really what he's going to do for them. It's going to be awesome, and of course, Tet, all day long as that year one impact. Main question though, how much longer, how much better can Bryce Young get as his Panthers career goes on? What type of jump are you looking for him, P. Dunn?
I mean, I think you're instead of a, you know, after came back from his injury last year, it was not a very steady. It like everything was kind of up and down, and then he really shot up. I think when you're looking, like you said, year three, like you're looking for a little bit of this now. You're looking for things to start to level out. You're looking for some solidarity in that quarterback room, just to know what you're getting from him on a week-to-week basis. And I think they've done a great job at um, putting him in a situation where that's possible with adding to that run game, adding to his weapons. I think he's in a situation where if he is in a position to succeed, and if he can't do that, then it is what it is. But it is not the team's fault. They've invested in him, and he has to go and back it up now.
I'm super excited to see it. You saw kind of that swagger come through at the end of last season, which was really awesome to see, especially those games like late season game versus the Chiefs, where the massive underdog, but he played with that swagger, and he's kind of in this like questionable division of the NFC South. I think it's one of the weaker ones in terms of like full competition. Like it's nothing like the NFC North or the NFC West, even the NFC East. This is the weakest division in the NFC. So kind of this is their opportunity to kind of jump and just really shock everybody, kind of make a similar jump to what the Texans did 2 years ago and what ultimately that Commanders team did last year. So super excited to see that from them. But let's talk about the Falcons now. Five picks,
Yep.
shorter draft,
Yep.
mixed opinions. This is our first real divide in terms of our opinions on the draft. So tell me why B for the Atlanta Falcons.
I really have a lot of weight on the loss of next year's first round pick in order to get James Pierce Jr. And if you were going to tell me that it's not fair to add that into the grade, then that's fine. It
Yeah,
would probably be a B plus. But when one pick before the Giants with the quarterback tax, they're like, I don't care what anybody says, there is a
yep,
quarterback tax in the league if you want to go get a quarterback. Teams will charge you more. And with that tax, the Giants only used two third-round picks to go get Jackson Dart. And then you give up a first-round pick for James Pierce Jr. Like the Texans fleeced the Falcons. Yes, is he going to be good? Yes, he will. We were both high on him. We both would have been much higher on him without the character concerns.
yep,
He is easily a top 10 talent in the class, easily. And so when you get that along with Jaylen Walker, who we're both very high on, in different ways, we see him differently, but it's very consensus. He's a
yeah,
really good football player. Um, and then you get two fantastic safeties to run around in your back end. I think Xavier Watts was massively undervalued, and he fell that far. And you got Billy Bowman too, a guy I've talked to you about before that I really like throughout this draft process. So it's going to be, I really like the picks they made. I really hate that they gave up a first round pick. I don't know. It like we've talked about before, it was very obvious that they planned on taking James Pierce and
yeah.
then didn't expect Jalen Walker to fall. And they're like, oh my gosh, we got to take Jalen Walker. And then they went back and got their guy. So, I mean, if it works out, it works out. But that definitely had a massive impact on my grade.
100%. I honestly I think it's gonna work. I feel like going into last college football season, he was just too highly touted of a prospect, um, based on his kind of body of work and everything. And I mean, I don't know if you would call it a down year, but I don't think it was as good as his previous year of what his showing probably did drop his draft stock in, including everything that happened, the character concerns and everything. But at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, James Pierce Jr. Is there going to be somebody of his caliber at my pick next year? And I feel like that's what the Falcons thought, and I feel like they said no, we need James Pierce right now for this defense. So at that point, giving up a first round pick, yes, it is very pricey. Um, However, looking at it at that way, I don't hate it as much. I 100% agree with you, guy all along. And then Jalen Walker falls, hell yeah, we're gonna take them both. And I think it's a very bold thing. I think essentially, and it depends how you look at Jalen Walker if you're going edge, linebacker, but you basically took two pass rushers and two safeties, and that's a bold move, and they're four really good players. So it'll be really interesting to see how this shakes out, especially on the depth chart as we kind of switch gears here. I think you're looking outside linebacker for both of them. Um, but you tell me, what do you see on this depth chart?
I think you're right. I think they're going to play different roles. I think Jalen Walker is going to end up being more of that chess piece. He's going to play a lot of different ways, and James Pierce is kind of the opposite. He plays one role, and it's scream off the edge and sack the quarterback, and he's damn good at it. And so it's going to be really interesting. I do think Xavier Watts starts. I think it's going to be really cool to see him and Bates running around on the back end. And then you've got a guy for Jack Nelson in the future. They needed to invest. That offensive line's getting older, and they've got a guy for the future now. So,
I like it a lot. I like Jeff Ulbrich coming back to this Atlanta Falcons defense as the coordinator, and kind of just seeing what they do with his leadership. I mean, they're pretty deep as a team in terms of the defense. The offense looks very fairly unchanged, and that kind of brings us to the main question. Um, what type of jump do we need to see from Penix for this team to really win this division?
well, it's his first year fully having the reins, first offseason going in and being the starter. And he's got a lot of firepower to work with, is still a good offensive line. And you have a awesome amount of weapons. Drake London took his step last year. Um, Bijan is Bijan, and I have no idea what you're gonna get out of Kyle Pitts. Do you think Kyle Pitts is gonna be on the team by the time this season starts?
I think so. I think this is it. The experiment's over after this year. This is his. He's got to figure it out this year. But I feel like with Penix, Penix is a little bit better at hitting his tight ends, and you kind of saw kind of when he came into the system towards the end of the year, Pitts all of a sudden started becoming more involved, and I feel like these weapons. I don't know if you have to move Pitts maybe to a slot role to try to accelerate something. Because I do feel like they could have used another receiver maybe throughout the draft or something. I would have liked to see that. But regardless of what they do with him, I think you got to try something different with Pitts. He's too great of a talent, drafted fourth overall. Like you gotta try something. And I feel like last year was a little bit on the better track towards something else we could see. Um, you do see here, it probably won't matter, but they picked up three new tight ends. They're not really notable names, but it's just interesting. That's a lot of tight ends. I mean, you have six tight ends on this depth chart. So does that kind of accelerate something with Pitts moving a position a little bit? Maybe he's going to go towards the slot like Kincaid did, or something else. I don't know, but I just feel like on offense, they've mastered it all in terms of just weapons, and they need to use these weapons, continue to use Bijan and Drake London how they have, and it works. And you just got to make up for that loss of Drew Dahlman at center. Um, Talk to me about your five.
Yeah, I mean, I was very high on Xavier Watts throughout this process, so he's going to be my best pick and favorite value, or favorite pick and best value. Draft Diamond is Bowman. I think he's going to be awesome. Kind of another gadget guy in that back end. He can play all three spots, whether you want him in the slot or you want him roaming the back end. Sleeper, Jack Nelson, guy that they obviously invested in and they like. They needed an offensive line, and that was the guy that they wanted. And I think James Pierce Jr. is going to come in and do. He has a very simple role, and they're going to tell him, like I said, go get the quarterback, and he's going to go do it at a really high level. So very excited about that.
It'll be really cool to see. I kind of have that same thought process with Pierce. I think he's honestly my draft diamond out of this whole thing. I think there's a reason why um, they traded away a first round pick for him. They really believe in him. And I think he's going to live up to that. And I think in a few years, we're not going to worry as much about that first round pick um, when it doesn't pan out for the Rams. But my favorite pick is Jalen Walker. He's also going to be my year one impact player. He's just phenomenal. My linebacker one, I think he's my number eighth or ninth rated overall. This dude is a beast. This was literally the perfect spot for him. I think that's the unique thing about it. James Pierce and Jalen Walker found their perfect destinations, which is really cool to see. And then best value, Xavier Watts. I mean, he was number three safety for me. And he was like one of the, I don't know, I think he was like fourth or fifth taken, but like there was a sizable gap between where he should have went and where he really went. And then I think sleeper, as you said, Billy Bowman. I think he's gonna be a player. Um, and yeah, so like how how much stake can we put in this Falcons team to really run this division? Because it's kind of lopsided. You see the Bucks and then maybe the ascendance of the Panthers, but that's really it.
Yeah. I mean, I think personally, I think this is a team that would not shock me winning this division at the end of the year, which is not saying a lot and saying a lot at the same time because it's not a good division, but they
Yeah,
need to step in order to make that happen. And I think they're capable of that. I think the biggest thing that held them back was that defense, and they very obviously invested in that in a big way. They knew they needed to work on that, and they did. They got four really good players, and that are going to play really important roles. And so with that, I don't want to say the sky's the limit, but there's definitely an improvement here that should and will be made this season on that defense. So
I 100% agree with that. All right, let's go. This is the weird one. The Saints.
oh boy.
This is kind of a little bit of a disconnect as well. Not really though. Just a bad draft overall. Both I think this was if this wasn't bottom five for me, it was six or seven. But this was the bottom three for you. So you talk to me, Peyton. What is so bad about this New Orleans Saints draft?
Well, I think when you look at the amount of draft picks they had, and you compare it to the way that um, a team like the Eagles invested in those picks, I think I think we often overcomplicate drafting. Um, on a worse roster, the better roster drafted better players.
Yeah,
And
it's
they
crazy.
drafted bad players. You did not draft good players. And I think with the amount of picks that they had, um, it's not a good it's not a good look, and it's not a great. The only thing I like here is investing in the offensive line with Kelvin Banks. But you got to, especially when you're in a rebuilding stage, the way the Saints are, you got to draft good players, get good foundations, get good pieces, get good players that are going to be around a long time. And I think they got two. I think they got Stutzman, a guy who I like, and I think they got Kelvin Banks. And that's if Kelvin Banks work out. They don't have a good history of drafting offensive tackles. So yeah, I would. It's a bad day to be a Saints fan. This is really, really rough. The big headliners, Tyler Shuck. Uh,
How do we feel about that?
I I don't know, man. If that's your guy, it's your guy. I get it, but I mean, how much better would this draft be if they gave up those two third round picks and went and got Dart instead of letting the Giants do what the Giants did? Even the Giants, they gave up their two third round picks and then bought and then drafted a bunch of really good players. Like, it's not that hard. Like,
Or you could have kept all your picks and taken Shadur. I mean, five times over.
yeah, I don't
Like
know.
it's
It's just
I don't
bad.
understand the direction with this team. This has to be one of the worst um quarterback rooms I've ever seen in my life. It's just awful. I don't I like Kelvin Banks. I don't understand the pick because you took Fuaga the other year, last year, and then you took Penning like a year or two before that. Like they just don't have a good history of doing this. I don't know why they're doing it again. I understand you got to rebuild through the trenches, but like so many team needs, and that's kind of what you're addressing first two picks. I don't get it. I love Stutzman as well as you do. I think Neal could be a player for them, but why are we taking a running back when it's a 6th round running back? It doesn't really matter. But you got plenty of running backs. That's not your issue. Um,
That's how you know
so
it's bad when our one
yeah,
conversation point is their 6th round running back that they took.
exactly.
Like,
And
when you're at a point like this, like you just you need BPA picks, and
yep,
not a single one of these picks was the best player available. Not a single
no.
one. Not a single pick was the best player available.
Not even nearly to their actual team need. As we'll kind of look as we look at this depth chart, it's just the fact that I think it's gonna haunt them. That the fact that they passed on Shadur one, two, three, four, five, 6 times. Um, it's just and you took Tyler Shuck. I just know. I mean, he was my quarterback 9. I was not high on him at all, and they took him before everybody. It's just absolutely ridiculous. But that's got to be one of the worst quarterback carousel I've ever seen. Tyler Shuck, Spencer Rattler, and Jake Hanner. What do you got to say about that?
What is there to say, man? I don't know. Thank God I'm not a Saints fan. That's what there is.
Who's gonna win that competition? Like,
I don't know. I think they're gonna give it to Rattler, but
okay,
you remember when Rattler came out last year and we were like, man, he's old, dude. Like
yeah.
he's old. He's Tyler Shuck's a year older than Rattler is right now. That's how old Tyler Shuck is. They've got a bunch of veterans in there, and all of them are still in their rookie contracts. It's
There's no direction here. I mean, a Justin Reed signing as a safety doesn't make sense. You're paying him premium money at a position that like yeah you need, but like what are we doing? And you're bringing back Brandon Cooks, who's a phenomenal, consistent receiver. He's up there with Tyler Lockett, just straight consistent receivers. But like what is going on at the receiver core? Like, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with Trevor Penning. Um, what is there? Is there anything to look forward to if you're a Saints fan on this roster?
Oh, I'm glad you said that because I was gonna say Arch Manning sweepstakes, but
Yeah.
on this roster, I don't know, man. I'd tell you you got a great young receiver, but he's got a bunch of concussions issues, so I don't know how much longer. Like, there's some real genuine concern about him and those concussions.
Yep.
But I don't know.
Kamara's aging. I
Bad.
mean,
He's getting old.
yeah.
Um, I mean, you hope, genuinely, you hope that Banks works out well and Fuago has a good second year and you have bookend
Yep.
tackles for a long time.
Yep.
That would be really great. That's a great foundation to build a team on. So if you want a positive, that's a positive. Uh, there's a lot of wishing left in there, but if that works out, that'd be great for this program.
I think the thing that stands out to me is just Cameron Jordan aging. They do nothing in the draft for him. Demario Davis aging. I think Stutzman could move into that middle linebacker, but I think right now he's better kind of at that weak side position. So you're not really addressing the middle linebacker right now. And then um, Tyron Honey Badger. I mean, Jonas Sanker is a good player, but how much of that is he going to be able to do? I don't know. I don't know how to feel really about the Saints team. You gave it a D plus. Why did you give it a D plus?
Uh, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why I gave it a D plus. I mean, it's not ideal, man. Like I said, like the best way to put it is when you're in a position like this, you do what the Panthers did, and they took BPA every pick.
Yep.
And then that is the perfect like contrast of what you're supposed to do when you're building a team from the ground up. And this is just they did the opposite of this. And I mean, Stutzman's a guy I like. I put Banks down as my favorite pick because I love the intent behind it. And then Quincy Riley, a guy that they're going to need to step up because that corner room is aging bad outside of Kool-Aid McKinstry. So I don't know, man. It's pretty rough.
I think you're looking at the number one overall pick. If I had to do a summary of the season, just like you, I'm high on Stutzman. I think he's going to turn out really well. I think they got him for a great value. Where they got him, I think probably the best draft diamond here. Probably not with the Saints, with the trajectory of their offensive line, but Kelvin Banks, I think he'll end up being the best in this draft class, having the best career. I think Jonas Sanker, like I said, top sleeper. And I think year one impact, I think Chuck's going to get the ball. I mean, whether it's week one or week six, I think somewhere in that window he will start. And that kind of is a testament to what is going on in New Orleans. Which leads us to Tampa. A little bit different. I feel like, and this is kind of crazy, but I feel like just Tampa is just nobody's talking about Tampa, and I don't know if that's good or bad because I feel like their season can go either way this year. This year, like, is this like a downfall, or do they just continue to ascend? I mean, they've won the division 4 years in a row now. So is this a year that they make it number five? And kind of looking at this draft, maybe so. We gave it two B pluses. So talk to me about this draft.
Yeah, I mean, it's the perfect epitome of like if I could give you an example of what a B plus draft is, this is perfect. Like it's a high floor draft. You've got a couple guys that you think could take big steps. BMO, a guy who's shown flashes, but also you're getting a good player, a guy who I was very high on, obviously 15th on my board.
Yeah,
And then Emeka Buko, like kind of the best version of what the Lions did
yep,
is you just get a guy that you know is going to be good. He's going to be good for you for a long time with an aging
100%.
Godwin, with an aging Mike Evans. He's going to be an awesome receiver, like about as high floor of a prospect as you could find. So you took some risks on some guy down the board. You got two edge guys that you both like a lot.
I do.
So you talk to me about those guys. You got those guys high on your board.
I like what they bring. I feel like nobody's talking about David Walker. I feel like he's just going to be explosive, and he just reminds me of a typical Buccaneer and that kind of mold, and he's going to fit what Bowles has going on over there. I really like Elijah Roberts as well, but they got him as the big steal in the fifth. I just like what they're building, and I feel like their team, if anything, is a veteran team, and they're kind of aging. And I feel like adding this refreshment, I like how they doubled down on all three positions here. They, double on corner, they double receiver, and then they double on the line. And I think that that's kind of a unique way. And this kind of is the testament to what they've been able to do over the last decade or so. Or really just after the Tom Brady era. I mean, they're still stacking it, and Tom Brady isn't even there anymore. So we'll look at this kind of roster. There's not much turnover at all. You're throwing out the same kind of people. They did really nothing in free agency. They brought in Reddick, um, and then Anthony Walker here. Other than that, it looks identical. Um, if anything, is there anything that stands out to you? Like, what is there something to? Is there something to worry about here?
No, I don't think so at all. I think you have a team that you added two impactful guys at two impactful positions, and you really set a great foundation for the future. This is a year that, like you said, like we talked about in the NFC North episode with, the Packers and Vikings of like, I don't know whether their window's opening or I don't know whether their window's closing. And the Bucks made a very clear effort that no, this probably is not going to be a very impactful draft at all this year. Like there may be one guy that gets serious playing time this year, and that's Emeka Buka. But even he is a pick that was for the trajectory of the future. Like BMO, I don't know how much playing time he's going to get. Now, I think he's going to steal some playing time because of how good he is. But this is a foundational draft for a team that is looking to build in the future, and I have a awesome amount of respect for that. That's a great way to build teams. And if you're a Buccaneers fan, no, it's not as exciting, but you should feel very good about the trajectory of this team for the future.
I feel like they're not really making any big moves, really, year to year anyway. And if they just continue to just beat up on a weak NFC South, then so be it. And you know, now you're just looking, how do I not become a first round exit? Which you saw a year or two ago when they beat the Eagles. And they kind of extended and then shocked everybody. That's kind of what they're looking at too. They're almost a lock for the playoffs every year. And they're really not making any big roster decisions. But I will say though that their guys are aging. And that's definitely something to keep in mind. but I feel like these picks kind of highlight kind of those parts. I think the Emeka Egbuka pick is something that like I was very high on. I'm very high on him. And I think it's a really unique way because they really liked McMillan last year. Trey Palmer showed some flashes. Even Sterling Shepard was catching passes at big times, and they still went with Egbuka. And this is kind of something that's it's almost like the Packers a little bit, except it's very like thought out. It's a thought out version of the Packers wide receiver room, and it's a better one because of that, obviously. And you know what you're going to get out of Mike Evans. I mean, you bring back Chris Godwin, who rejected more money elsewhere to stay here. There's like, if you got players doing that who are aging, that just says all you need to know about this team and how it is run. Baker's a dog, and this defense. I think the defense will be the main question mark. Just how much longer can Levante David do it or Vita Vea? These guys, just how long can they just stay consistent? But I would not be complaining if I was a Buccaneers fan.
Agreed.
Um, Talk a little bit about these picks for me.
Yeah, BMO's my boy. Yeah, honestly, one of my favorite prospects in the draft. So to have him both at my favorite pick and the best value seemed obvious to me. Draft diamond, Elijah Roberts, a guy that I think will mold into a player that I think the Buccaneers are going to be really happy with. David Walker, like a guy like your boy, got a guy down the board that I think can come in and make an impact. And then year one impacts, like we talked about, like there's not really a lot of guys that are going to come in and need to make an impact because this is a well-built roster. But
Yeah,
he's going to come in, he's going to play the slot, and he's going to uh, make a really impactful playing time chunk in this receiver room, if that makes sense.
for sure. Yeah, I got a question. What are you looking at them in terms of like kind of are you just looking like defensive end? Is one going to be an outside linebacker? Like that's kind of something I'm wondering.
Yeah.
And I kind of have a thought process, but what do you see with these guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think Elijah Roberts, just because of his body type, is going to fit in the defensive end role. And then David Walker, I feel like is kind of a flex guy.
Yep.
I'm that he's your Walker's your boy.
Yeah,
What do you
I think they got him perfectly right there. I think he's going outside linebacker. I think really it really depends if like what Cansey does. I think Logan Hall will be solid all year, but like if there's an injury, maybe you slot him around. But I think that they got him in the good spot right now. It'll be interesting to see where they're playing him at. Um, Kind of going into mine, BMO. Once again, we were both very high in BMO. I think the draft diamond and the impact is going to be Egbuka. I was very high on him as well. And then kind of best value getting Elijah Roberts in the fifth. That's really awesome. And then David Walker is your top sleeper. Nobody's talking about that man. Um,
you are?
so it'll yeah, I know I am. So I'll be early on that. You come back to this video when he's a stud. Super excited to see that. So out of the division, is there a clear winner?
Oh yeah, Panthers clear winner, for sure. In my opinion, not because other than the Saints, not because the Bucks and the Falcons had bad drafts, just because of how amazing the Panthers draft was. I mean, it was an A. It was an A plus. Like it was a really, really, really great draft. So
And these other teams didn't do much. Besides the Falcons, who did a lot in kind of free agency, I would have to agree. I think the Panthers are clear winner here. Um, they were able to build in the draft and free agency, which like some of these teams, like I don't know if you could say that they did that. You see the draft for the Bucks, you don't see free agency. I don't know what to see with the Saints team. High on that Falcons team, but the Panthers just did it better. Um, and for me, there is a clear loser. It is the Saints. If you're a Saints fan, look away. Um, I I find it hard to believe that they will not have the top two pick. Um, and I think that and going straight into the win totals at 6.5, I'm slamming the under. That is very high. That being said, I'll slam the over on that Panthers team. And then I think I'm gonna go over on the Falcons, and it's tough for the Bucks. I think I'm gonna go under on the Bucks. I think it'll be at 8 or 9. Um, so I'll go. Yeah, that's what I'll go. What do you got, Pete?
I'm the exact same. I'm gonna go
Yep.
under on the Bucks, not because they're bad, but I think the gap between them and the Falcons and the Panthers has closed this year. Um, and then going back to the Saints, like you cannot look at me with a straight face and tell me that that quarterback room is winning 7 games this season. There's no
No,
way. No way. Unless they trade for Kirk, and Kirk has a resurgence. He wouldn't even that good. Like I don't. It's bad. Like
I don't even think they're winning four.
way they're getting over 7 games this year. No way.
It's a shock, and it's crazy to think just that team. They put up 40 the first two games last year, and we were like, "Holy crap, Saints Super Bowl!" But not anymore. It'll definitely be interesting to see how the NFC South shakes out. You get the draft right here with Division Draftables NFC South Edition. Thank you guys for tuning in, and stay tuned for more episodes.